Welcome to Lumiant Live. I'm your host, Mark Ackroyd. Lumiant Live is the podcast for advice professionals that believe in a values-based advice experience, but still have that question, how does it all work? We connect listeners with other advice professionals to hear best practice client stories or business examples and lift the lid on how they made it happen. Now, on to today's episode.
Hello and welcome everybody to another episode of Lumiant Live. I am joined with a friend from back home in Melbourne, Antony Fernando, Principal Advisor of St. Anthony. How are you?
Hi, Mark. Very good. Thank you. Thanks for giving the opportunity, Mark. Thank you.
Hey, no worries at all, man. Thank you so much for joining us. I'm quite excited about this episode because unashamedly, Antony is one of our power users of Lumiant. We've been following his journey ever since he became a customer and some of the great work that he's doing in implementing his ideal Lumiant experience and bringing it to life with his clients has been exemplary. So, mate, it just made sense for us to get you on. We can't wait to chat about it.
Thank you. Looking forward to.
So, Antony, like we do with all our guests, we're going to, no doubt get into your ideal Lumiant experience and how you designed it and how you deliver and stage your great client experience. And you've brought in a client story. But before we even get into that, we'd love to learn a little bit more about you, man. So tell us a little bit about your journey and how you got to where you are today.
Certainly. So I'm in the financial services industry for the last 24 years, Mark. It's a sort of started from the banking industry, different roles up to assistant manager role, and then a bit of a change of gears about 6-7 years ago. That's where I embarked on financial advising, where I had the qualification all this time. That's where I seriously thought about it. So worked for a major bank, and then afterwards, after about 3 years ago, roughly about 2.5 years ago, that's where I started St. Anthony's. So basically having that experience and from the major, all this time, except for starting St. Anthony's, worked in a major corporations, multinationals. So that's where I wanted to have a differentiation as well, actually starting St. Anthony's, where giving that the understanding the clients more in a full way, holistic way. So that's the difference I wanted to make. So that's my background, about 24 years in industry and senior advisor for the last 6+ years. Yeah.
That's a fantastic story. Not too dissimilar to myself, starting in a large bank. What made you personally want to make the change to go from banking into financial advice? And
certainly. So it was a blessing in disguise, actually. About 3 years ago, most of all the banks now in Australia do not have financial advisors in their branches. So I was a senior advisor of one of the branches in that the big bank. So they given us, actually, we call it golden handshake. Sort of, so it worked out well, actually. So initially, obviously, bit of disappointed at that time. So was in a good position, but then I thought of myself, look, this is a good opportunity for me to go ahead or proceed with what I'm passionate about all this time. So why not I'm passionate about helping clients understanding their real needs, holistic way. There's no any other best opportunity than this now to start it now myself. That's where I started St. Anthony's. So that's a major reason is to have that opportunity to grow as per my values, and so that worked out very well.
yeah, and so amazing that you took the leap and backed yourself into it. Tell us a little bit about when you were starting St. Anthony's and when you were sitting back and thinking, how do I want my client experience to run, and what do I want my business to be known for? How did you work through that, and what did you end up coming up with?
Exactly. So that's a very important a situation, actually, or occasion where I was sitting back and thinking, right, how can I start this? What's the differentiating factor? I don't want it to be just a normal financial advising firm. I wanted to actually understand the client's needs in a holistic way and make a differentiating factor in terms of offering. So that's where I was, planning the way I'm going to have the conversation and systems, etc. My licensee, well, I'm still with my licensee about 2.5 years ago. When I started, they offered me a training wherein actually it's explain the importance within the training, importance of understanding the holistic advice of the client and going through the values, especially, etc. And then that's where I found a Lumiant actual experience. I believe I'm one of the very early adopters, starters with Lumiant. So that's how when I saw that process, I saw exactly that's what I was looking for actually. So and then I just embrace it whole-handed. Yeah.
Yeah, you most certainly have. We follow your experience and the amazing work that you do in Lumiant quite closely. So maybe let's talk about that, right? So you were one of our early adopters at Lumiant, and you've sort of looked back at your experience and how you might embed Lumiant into it so that you could create, as we like to call it, an ideal Lumiant experience for your clients. But before we get into the whole Lumiant side of things, and that'll naturally come out, why don't you tell us a little bit about your client experience? What have you designed? How do you go about your client experience?
Certainly. Now, in my, I call it journey towards a success roadmap. So what I like to use the simple layman words, actually. Obviously, we are fulfilling the compliant document, which is a statement of advice, which is a bit lengthy and full worded, but I use it as a success roadmap. So everyone knows the roadmap. Roadmap has, the milestones when you when you travel through, when you go to the destination. So it's a success at the end of the day. We are planning to achieve the success for the client. So success roadmap, my journey, actually, I offer clients with two meetings. Both meetings are complimentary, no cost to them. The first meeting, I call it as a discovery meeting. That's where we spend time with the client. But before that, just step back. I just do like a pre-vetting, obviously, before we do the full discovery meeting to understand the clients, what their clients after, and make sure that the right clients in front of me. And then we embark on the discovery meeting. That's where we understand the full why the clients in the first place in front of me, what are the burning issues, etc. And then I explain client on high level, basically what to expect during the meeting, and a bit of myself, who I am, who you are dealing with, but a bit of my personal story and my professional story, etc. That helps clients to actually relax and obviously disclose me information when I open up myself first. Then I explain why we do this value-based conversation, what's the reason for that, understand importance of understanding the holistic life of the client. Obviously, the life is not only the money. I mean, funds, money is important, but that's not the whole thing. Everyone understands, and clients actually understands when I say like that. So then they open up and we discuss then the values. So we got those 8 dimensions of well-being. Go through the process. This is a very structured, scalable process, repeatable every time. Don't miss anything, which is important as well. Every client get the same experience from me. So that's where we go in a structured manner and understanding the meaningful goals from the conversation. So I explained that these meaningful goals act as your guardrails in your plan. So and whenever you check the plan down the line, your roadmap, you know why these goals are, because we had the conversation. It's linked to the route. So yeah, it's sort of that's a discovery meeting. So after the discovery meeting, I scheduled another meeting actually, which is a short meeting. It's called Propose Strategy Meeting, wherein I sort of summarize the last meeting I had with the client, and obviously giving in writing These are the proposed strategies that gives the best chance to achieve your goals. Obviously, that's not the advice itself. It's a proposed strategy document, and then explaining on high level, like a pre-taste. Okay, if you're happy to proceed with, this would be the proposed strategies to give the best chance. So to achieve your meaningful goals. So that's on high level, Mark, what we do. This is the process. So 2 complementary meeting, discovery meeting, and strategy meeting. Yeah.
I love that. So stay there for me, because I think our listeners might have their ears pricked up there around the 2 complementary meetings. That's quite unique, right? It's quite brave in a really good way. Tell me how you came to that decision to give 2 complementary meetings, and has anyone ever asked you, why would you do that?
Absolutely. Some clients are actually asking me why you do that, and even my colleagues, actually, some of the colleagues asking that. But what I'm looking at this, actually, these conversations as investment of my time, actually, to understand the client, and for me personally, every time improving that conversation, understanding more in a more holistic way. Each conversation, each client is a unique client. So why I do that is actually understand that after the first meeting, which is the discovery meeting, in order to actually to give that answer, like, yes, I can help you, this is the cost going to be, etc. It's so early to give then and there, actually, because I love to see, digest what we discussed during that first meeting, which is a big meeting, actually, understanding the client for the first time, unique situation for the first time, giving that time for me to prepare the proposed strategy document, to understanding a few information on high level, which we discuss during the meeting. That gives me that the cushion of giving that the proposed strategy document in a more meaningful manner. So that's a reason for that. So some of my colleagues might say, I mean, why 2 meetings? Maybe wasting time. No, actually, it's an investment for me, and I'm not expecting every client to actually, of course, proceed with that advice. Understand that at least I'm making that promise that even if you don't proceed with the advice, obviously that's fine, but you will be more knowledgeable when you walk out from my second meeting, than you walked in. So likewise, so that's the reason we do the 2 meetings.
I think it's excellent, right? I think it's backing yourself. But what I picked up, and help me articulate this a little bit better, because you'll do it heaps better than myself. But what I picked up in your language and sort of mentality when you're talking about the investment of your time, there's quite a level of servitude there, where you feel like, if I sort of put it in my words, and I'll let you explain it, but you sort of feel like you're doing them a service, and in that sense that it'll come back in a good way as well. Is that am I right in saying that?
Absolutely. You need to have the faith in the client. Obviously, having said that, not 100% striking rate. Obviously, I'm looking at, to be honest, a striking rate about 60 to 70% of striking rate of, obviously, clients going ahead with the advice process. But you are correct, Mark, is spot on, where that's you understand, when you spend that time with the client, and open up myself, giving my details, my personal life, and the client's details, obviously, and formulating these proposed strategies, even the client actually thinking, like, this is maybe different to other advisors I met, or maybe that particular client may have met few new advisors to select the right advisor. So that's a differentiating factor. Apart from understanding deep inside my values and meaningful goals, I'm spending some time as well to really understand, genuinely taking time to understand that person. So that's, I think, that itself my point of genuinely understand the client and the meaningful goals. So that's another reason maybe for that high striking rate of proceeding with that advice.
Yeah. The other thing that you mentioned that I really want to spend some time on, because I know there's a lot to this, having followed your journey, is your framing of your experience around the journey to success roadmap. I mean, so much so those that are watching this on YouTube will be able to see a little roadmap behind you in your office. You are really living and breathing that. But tell me a little bit more around how you explain the journey to success roadmap experience for your clients.
Yeah, certainly. So now, when it comes to financial planning and strategies, there's no magic bullet to succeed all of a sudden. All right, this is the strategy for you, and here we go. So that's all. Nothing like that. Actually, it's about its experience with the time. You have to invest some time and discipline, obviously, when there's a specific strategies is given. So that's where I educate the client about this importance of time and discipline and when you go through the journey. So it's a success roadmap is, as I said, it's not a magic bullet. You need to have actual to start the journey. You have to start from somewhere. That's where the roadmap starts. So and we are starting from somewhere, looking at the end. So what we are going to achieve, this is the end, obviously. That's the destination of the plan. Yes, along the way, you might have to do some fine tuning, some changes, some rules might change or regulations might change. So that's a fine tuning part. But as your advisor, life coach, I will be ongoing basis helping to you. You have my, I will be access. You have my access to you, and then you can call me anytime, or we have our meetings, actually formal meeting sessions, etc. So that's, you can fall back on me in that case, where I arrange certain corrective actions. So that's where we go together. I take your hand and journey with you towards the success roadmap. So that's how I explain to the client about the importance of firstly having the roadmap, secondly ongoing basis supporting the client to take the journey. Yeah.
And how do you find that analogy resonates with them? Do they understand it? Are they expecting something different? Like it might feel a little bit different to them, right?
You look, it's sort of very connecting with most of the clients that are using that simplified way rather than statement of advice. And you got those smart goals and these are the dollar figures, etc. Yes, of course, we are talking about dollar figures and how much to achieve and to achieve, etc. But when it comes to explaining that in the layman terms and easy terms, especially so now when we do with especially a client, the couple CFO, non-CFO clients, so especially connecting with the non-CFO client who doesn't look after the finance of the family, but sometimes he or she will be the instrumental person to take the decision to go with the plan. So that's really connecting with that person, non-CFO client. So yeah, that's important part actually to make sure everyone's in the same page. Yeah, so that's resonating very well.
Yeah, I love it. I mean, we recently did an episode with Ash, our head of marketing here, and he was speaking around how you need to, yes, you have an SOA, right? But you need to make it meaningful in a way that resonates with your clients, and your journey to success roadmap really, really does that, which I think is a really cool example. Now, obviously, you've spoken a bit about your client experience, a couple meetings before the SOA, a statement of advice. Both of those are complementary. You go through the values exercise, you propose a strategy document. To exemplify it, you've brought in a bit of a client story for us today, which I always love. But what I love about this story that we're about to get into is it's not all sunshine and rainbows, right? Like it wasn't the most linear journey. So how about you tell us a little bit about this client and the experience they had?
Certainly. So this is like a few experiences, but this particular experience was actually this client search on Google, obviously, to see the suitable financial advisor for this client's retirement journey to start. And then, in fact, met a few, had an initial conversation with few advisors in the area, found from Google, and then finally, obviously, I think I was the fifth advisor when the client called me, getting the information from Google, and So obviously she the person first asked, what's the cost going to be? And also how you're going to help me straight away. So I'll explain that, look, we'll discuss about the cost, but I'll offer you 2 complimentary financial planning meetings. And I had the pre-written initial information. And then I explained that my process on high level before we obviously schedule for the discovery meeting, explain that importance of understanding the holistic life, or what you want to achieve, what makes you happy. Obviously, through that's where we understand the goals, rather the values rather. So to deep inside. To go into the roots, we need to understand what makes you happy, what your values are, and then we understand meaningful goals after that. And there was a bit of a pause on the other side, on the phone, and make sure everything's fine. And this client said, look, you're quite different to the other 4 clients I've spoken to. They mentioned about the dollar figures, like the what to achieve, etc., how it go, the process going to be, but I never knew that we're going to understand the holistic life. I thought we are talking about only the finances only. I said, look, it's not like that with me. Actually, I'm understanding your holistic life. Why not let's have a discovery meeting scheduled? And that's how all started actually. So we had the discovery meeting, and yeah, it's a bit of a longer meeting because the client likes to speak, so that's fine. And then I had a fantastic meeting, understood little, obviously more into not only the retirement. The client had other needs as well, which is estate planning, about the grandchildren, and about the sons, how to help them actually. Likewise, so holistic nature, we understand the meaningful goals in that discovery meeting. So if I had only started about funds, and but she just only after the retirement, I would have missed all that important things that's important to the client, that makes her happy. So therefore, that's actually it's a testimony. At that point of time, after the discovery meeting, the client said, look, I came only for understand how the retirement going to happen, but look, now I understand as a financial advisor, there are more things that you can help. And she was very keen to wait till the proposed strategy document. And we had that meeting after a couple of days. And then yes, she was delighted actually, honestly. And then we straight away started the advice. And yeah, so that's a one example where the customer expectation was typical financial planning, just money figures only, but to the holistic life, where we propose, we recommended actually a holistic recommendations. We prepare the plan to cover not only the retirement but other things as well, including her health, the health wise, exercises and except those are the personal goals. Those are also important. That will be part of the statement of advice as well. Of course, there's no monetary figure sometimes, but still it's important to the client. So likewise, so this is one example. Yeah, so this has happened
I
recently.
am, yeah, for those that are on the audio files, that you may or may not be able to tell, I am beaming, right? It's such a lovely story for a multitude of reasons that we'll get into. But let's start with the fact that the client was searching on Google for a financial planner in the area and met 4 more before you. Did she ever mention what made you stand out and why she clicked on you?
Yeah, sure. She mentioned along these lines actually. You fully, I'm confident now, Anthony. You fully understood my whole life, like so. But that's a statement actually, which I sort of realized later on actually after she left. Right. So look, this value conversation really worked actually to me to understand holistically, and for the client to know that I'm interested in that client genuinely to help that person. So it's sort of yeah, it's really a sort of unsatisfying situation for me when I heard that words actually. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. And how did she compare you to the other 4 advisors?
Yeah, so Look, it was initial conversation with the other four advisors. She had actually didn't go to the meeting actually because she then and there decided not to proceed because she thought of actually, after the fifth person having that conversation, when I explained the holistic life understanding, obviously she didn't go ahead with the other four advisors for the proper meeting. But it was actually the differentiating factor of understanding fully as a whole holistic life, not just a financial thing, financial plan or that particular thing the client came for, in this case retirement planning, but to understand everything, like why I need to retire, what I'm planning to achieve from that, like what makes her happy, for example. Yeah.
Yeah, and you mentioned when you were on the phone, when she called up, one of the first things she asked about was fees. As you went down the experience, did she ever question fees again?
That's a very good question. Actually, no. To be honest, I didn't have to justify my fees, etc. I mentioned the fee, which is we charge a flat fee in our firm uh, after the second meeting, where the proposed strategy is presented. That's we mention the flat fee. It wasn't a focus or concept. We didn't talk about that much actually. Look, by the time given the proposed strategy document, I know that this client is like, even without seeing the proposed strategy document, happy to proceed that because of that, the foundational laid understanding the holistic situation of the client, what makes her happy. So from that first meeting, so that foundation actually was rock solid, and yeah, so fee wasn't an issue at all. Yeah.
Yeah. How cool is that? And the other part, before we summarize and move to your top tip, the other part that I'm super interested about is, she talked to the other advisors, and one of the first things she asked you was about the fees and how are you going to help me solve my immediate need. But by the end of your advice journey, you were not only solving her immediate need, which sounded to me like the retirement amount, but you are now also talking to her about her physical health and physical goals, her estate planning, her provisions and support of her grandchildren and her
Her
sons.
hobbies, I forgot to
Yeah,
mention her hobbies
and
as
her
well.
hobbies
Yeah.
as well.
Yeah.
How drastically did your advice change from that immediate retirement goal? And, how did she feel seeing all of those things?
Exactly, feel relief and confident. I tell you, exactly the clients, the word is actually, she said, I feel relief, Anthony. I mean, this is exactly, so this actually, when this happened, I recently presented this plan for the client. So that's after the presentation meeting, actually, when the plan was seen in black and white. Right. So I feel relieved, Anthony. So yeah, so that's as an advisor, obviously forget about about the fees and etc. As an advisor, that's a satisfying situation. I love to give that example, that experience to each and every client. Actually, I feel relieved, so I'll be all right. So that's the answer. That's the question we have to answer as advisors. Will I be all right? So that's what we do. All these things, all these statement of advice, etc. All these the rules, etc., compliance, to answer this question in a professional manner, understandable manner for the client. Will I be all right? So answering that in that way, when the client understand, she or he will be all right, that's a big relief for the client, and satisfying situation as a professional for me.
Yeah, you mentioned being satisfied. I was going to ask, how do you feel after that experience and reflecting back on it?
Yeah, so once the clients left, actually, after the meeting, I closed my door in the office, and I just had a like a big, 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 sort of satisfying situation for myself, actually. Yeah, so yeah, so yeah, it is actually, yeah.
I mean, look, I take immense pride in the work that we do at Lumiant, right? And just little things to me, like you could have just immediately solved the retirement issue. but now you're solving so much more for her in her broader life. Is super impressive, man. You should be so proud.
Thank you.
And in particular, you know, the fact that you were number 5 in the queue and you trumped them all because of you sticking to your experience, when it would have been really easy to just try and solve the initial need, maybe undercut the costs and try and win the deal that way. But you remembered there was a human at the end of this, and I have an experience I'm really passionate about, and you delivered on it. So well done, man. I'm super impressed.
Thank
Look,
you.
Anthony, mate, you've shared so much with us already today about your experience, and we'll sum it up in a moment. But if I could sort of press you for another tip, maybe
Sure.
one other tip, or best practice that you would say to a peer who is considering, you know, reshaping their client experience,
Sure.
what might that be?
Sure. I would say, Mark, be true to yourself, be authentic, actually genuinely take the interest of understanding the client's holistic life genuinely. Obviously, clients will see that from the face, from their eyes and face. When you have give 100% focus, genuinely understand, and use the tools like, obviously, Lumiant is highly recommended. I've been using for the last 2.5 years time, and it's really working, that tool actually. And I'm proudly showcasing to the client actually, when I prepared the plan, the client portal, for example. So be genuine, and genuinely take the interest of understanding the client needs, and be true to yourself. And you don't have to be another person, just be true to yourself, and understand and ask the right questions and help the client. I think those are the tips I will be.
Yeah, I mean, it's so simple, but so true to execute. One more thing that you just mentioned
Sure.
there, that I can't finish this episode and not unpack. You mentioned you proudly at advice presentation stage, you proudly show the Lumiant platform.
Yeah.
Tell
Yes.
me a bit more about that.
Exactly. Yeah. So as I said in the beginning, actually, so I want to differentiate from a normal financial planning term to understand the client's holistic need. So that's where actually at the time of presentation, when the plan is given, roadmap is given, and then before implementation, I'll show the client, my support team actually put this together, the Lumion client portal. That's the client's journey. That's how the journey is measured, and see the progress along with the time horizon in the roadmap. So that's where the client is sort of not in the dark. The client knows actually, look, this is my client portal. I can see my net wealth all in one place, because we can link the banking, your banking as well, and I see all your meaningful goals and how that's tracking along the time horizon. And also it's a cool few multi-color calculations as well, very simple calculations that sort of gives that validation of I'm in the right track. Likewise, so, and we communicate, we don't send a statement of advice or roadmap by emails, etc. These days we just use the vault, which is in the Lumion, actually, the client portal, which is, I call it as a virtual cabinet. So that everything is a whole package is there. I proudly showcase to the client, and then because that's a good way to keep a track on the progress of the roadmap. So yeah, that's what I do. That's at the presentation stage before the client leaves.
That makes sense, man. That's so cool. It's a nice way to tie a little bow on your entire experience. But as you mentioned, it sets the foundation for your progress meetings going forward, right? And checking in on that progress of their values, their goals. And I love that you just pop everything into a virtual cabinet. How good is that through Lumiant?
Thank you.
Anthony, man, thank you so much for sharing all your top tips today. We've covered how you made the leap from banking land over into financial advice, how you thought about the value proposition you wanted to have at St. Anthony when you started out on your own, how you've created a framing around your advice being the journey to success roadmap and your confidence in your experience of knowing a client holistically, to give those first 2 meetings as complementary because it's in service of them. And even if they don't go ahead, although you do convert at 70%, which well done, you're doing them a favor, and you're really proud that you're at least letting them be better off, even if they don't proceed. And then your proud client story there, man, of how you helped that client after searching through 4 advisors live their best life through a holistic plan. Mate, there's a lot there to be proud of. On behalf of the entire Lumiant community, I just want to say thank you for sharing your story, and thank you for the work that you're doing. It gives us energy every day, man.
Thank you so much, and let me take this opportunity actually to convey that I'm really happy what I'm doing, and with the support of this scalable, repeatable experience, wouldn't be able to do it without having a great platform, and I'm enjoying that actually, and I'm using that for the clients to make their lives change, and it really changes my life as well. So, yeah, well done, and thanks for the opportunity to share my experience with you.
No worries at all, man. What a great note to end on. Thank you so much, Anthony, and have a great day, man.
You too. Thank you, mate.
Thanks for tuning in to another episode of Lumiant Live. If you really enjoyed it, we'd love if you could hit that subscribe button on your favorite podcast provider so you don't miss out on any of our upcoming episodes. Thanks again for tuning in.